everyone. So today we are going to work on writing a narrative. Um, and this part one, we're going to do planning. So planning is important because it helps get our thoughts on paper. It helps us to organize those thoughts, and it makes writing actually a bit easier. Um, so I did give you that writing practice yesterday, the three paragraph narrative, and so I got to see where everybody is at. It's not graded, or it is graded, but it doesn't count towards your grade because I want you to see where you started, and then after a couple weeks of practicing how to write narrative, I want to see how much you've changed. So I want to see I want you to see just how much you grow. A couple things that we're going to be working on when we're writing a narrative is the types of sentences we include, right? Descriptive versus event. Descriptive are like quotes or dialogue, thoughts, feelings, descriptions of the setting, and descriptions of characters. Um, and and then we have action sentences, which are the red sentences. And if you remember, there's really not many of those. Those just help to move the story forward. Um, and usually when students start out, they do mostly red sentences, like this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. There's very little description going on in between. So I just want to show you for this lesson, we're going to practice just planning. Um, and I'm going to show you my process. Now, each of you might have a different process, but the main goal is get something down so that you can begin organizing your ideas. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to pick. I'll pick greed. Okay, and then greed just has to do with always wanting more and more and more, never being satisfied. And I'm gonna start brainstorming. Like, okay, what kind of situations would greed present itself? How could it affect someone? How would someone? What does greed look like? And I'll just start typing things down. People wanting more, never being satisfied, losing friendships over greed, um, unhappiness, missing out on life, on different parts of life. So now I'm thinking, okay, what are some good situations like with students? What are some things that we might see with students where greed might play a role? First thing that came to my mind was like, when if kids are sharing stuff, like sharing candy, and one kid takes like most of them, so like sharing candy or food, and one kid takes the most. It could be even like friends. Friends are always sharing stuff, but one kid never shares. He just always takes. So one kid always takes and never shares. All right, so I have some ideas. Sharing candy or food. One kid always takes and never shares. I'm going to do this one, sharing candy or food, and one kid takes the most, like every time. Okay, so now I'm going to think of the plot. So plot is like what's going to happen in the beginning, middle, and end. So in the beginning, trying to think of the situation. We need to set up a setting. So we'll say a classroom. Okay. We'll have students as the, people in the room, characters, students, and teachers, and a teacher. Let's see. We'll pick a main character. We'll call the character. Let's come up with a name. We'll just say Max. Max is the main character. And he's going to be greedy. And what's going to be, let's say, the outcome? What will be the consequence of Max being greedy. So now I'm thinking like, with these things here, with our themes, there's usually like the character behaves a certain way in the beginning, and then there's some lesson at the end, like some consequence that they face. And the consequence doesn't have to be bad, right? So if someone who never gives up, they're failing, and failing, and then they finally, on the last try, they succeed. The consequence of their never giving up was that they succeeded. So in this case, we're doing greedy, so we're going to probably have a negative consequence. And maybe we'll just say that, he loses friends or people don't want to share with him anymore. Okay. So in the beginning, the middle, I haven't decided yet, but in the end, people don't want to share with Max anymore. So he ends up getting less or nothing. Okay. So in the middle, we'll have a situation. We'll sometimes it's hard to figure things out, right? Sometimes I just need to start writing, and then things kind of come along. So you start putting things down. Then you go back and you fix things. So when I write, I do the same thing. I'll start writing, and then I'll go back and I'll fix things. So again, I'm going to go down to this one. The beginning is the classroom setting. Each time it'll be the classroom setting. I'll just keep it simple. Characters Max for now. I can come up with some other names, just people who will kind of say things, and I'm just making this up right now. So we'll say Lucy, Maria, and I don't know yet if I'm going to use them, but just to have it there, I'm just going to be ready. I'll have some names ready just in case. You can have a teacher, I'll say Mr. G. All right, so I have this idea. It's just popping up right now. Max is going to be the one that's passing out candy. So Mr. G rewards the class, and then, hey Max, can you pass out the candy? So Max will be passing out the candy. Okay, and he's going to be sneaking the most. And then in the middle, I think what's going to happen in the middle, people will start finding out. So students start finding out that Max is taking more for himself. And in the end, the consequence is that Max gets in trouble and he no longer gets to have any candy, nor do people want to share with him. Now, so that's the planning part, right? And I'm going to copy this and put it up here just so I know. All right. So now we can kind of begin writing. Now, what we want to do, and we're just going to do the first paragraph right now, is we want to make sure that we describe things like the setting. We want to make sure that we include those blue sentences, right? Because those are what make up the most of what we're writing. When students think, when you get a writing assignment, you're like, oh my God, what do I write? I'm not going to have enough sentences. What do I write? This is where you write the most, is the descriptions. They don't matter that much, but at the same time, they help the reader get into the story, right? So the more descriptive it is, the more your reader is actually transported into the story. Think if you're watching a TV show or a movie, if this is a black screen, but you hear people talking, you're like, I have no idea what's going on. I hear them talking, but I'm not going to watch the show, right? It's the visuals, it's what you see that puts you into the movie. So in reading, it's different, right? Because you have to imagine the stuff. So the more description that you offer, the more that the reader actually goes into the book, the more that they're playing the movie in their head, which is what we want. All right, so I'm going to describe a classroom. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to just start them in the classroom. Okay, or it can be like the bell rang. Actually, so we were in class, and then there is an award. So I'm assuming something happened, right? So I'll just start with some dialogue, actually, which is, again, that's a blue sentence, right? Again, I'm just making everything up right now. So I can add in, like, here's my quote. Okay, so that's a blue. And then I can say who said it, right? And then I can say, give a little detail about what Mr. G might look like at that moment. Okay, so again, those are all blue. Smile across his face. So now, without saying, hey, Mr. G is happy, we're just showing you that he's happy. So instead of just telling you, hey, Mr. G said so while he was happy, Mr. G had a smile. So now you're thinking, and now you can see Mr. G with a smile. You're like, okay, I think he's happy. It sounds like what the kids did today was great. Okay. Give me 1 second. All right. So we're providing some setting and feeling without actually saying how they feel. That's where we are. Okay. And then if we're going to start a new conversation or new, then we're going to go, actually, this should be indented. We indent all the paragraphs. And then I'm going to have Mr. G say some more. All right. And then whenever we kind of like switch to a new scene or something kind of shifts, then we start a new paragraph. So Max. So even within these actions here, I'm providing you more detail, right? Yeah. Instead of just saying Max ran up to the front, I'm giving you more. So Max, his eyes wide, jumped up from his desk, almost knocking over his pencils and books onto the ground, and ran up to the front. Okay, that's way more detailed than Max ran up to the front. Okay. All right. Um, let's see. So then I want him like collecting the candy. He grasped the basket and immediately began walking around the room to pass the candy. Okay, so keep going. So now it's like that's the beginning, right? We got here. He's passing out. We set that up. So he's not quite yet sneaking. We're getting there. So we need to set it up. Why is he sneaking it out? Okay, why is he sneaking this candy? What's with this candy? When he reached into the woven basket. He almost, or let's just say he gasped. I'm like, oh, like he reached in there. Oh, anyway, starting a paragraph. You know what? I want to start with the name. It was like who we're talking about. His mouth began to water when he saw that the basket contained his favorite candies. Right, so he's like, whoa, right? Instead of, it was his favorite candies, and he began to take them. I'm adding again more detail. All right. Now I want to give you some thoughts, right? I want to tell you what he's thinking. And I was able to do that a little bit, like his mouth began to water, so that tells you like, oh, he sees something that he really likes, without actually saying he sees something that he really likes. An idea popped into his head, and he thought to himself, I'm going to put it in italics. All right, so I'm going to stop right here because this is a lot to process. So we're going to be planning, we're going to be setting it up. So again, I'm setting it up, and again, when I finish writing, I'm probably going to go back and fix it. All right. So the whole idea is to get your thoughts on there, and then we need to start thinking about like, okay, you have thoughts and feelings and quotes, and I need to have action sentences, but not too many of those, right? Because I want to, what's most important is those blue events, the blue descriptive sentences. All right, so that's the lesson for today.